Welcome to DIY Spooky Decor. Today I've got a story about the time I bought a 1940s antique French desk off of Facebook Marketplace for 60 bucks and revamped it into a Goth vanity. Here we go! Now, the first step in any upcycling project is to clean. Any cleaner with a degreaser will do. Just make sure to clean in every nook and cranny to remove as much dirt as possible so the paint will adhere to the project. I should have removed that metal trim at the top of the desk first. I do get to it before I start sanding. And it's time to sand. I started with a 240 grit. I watched some videos explaining why it was better to start out with a finer grit. Well, 240 wasn't cutting it. There was about 4 layers of paint on this desk, so I ended up using 180, 120, 80, and 60 throughout the sanding process. The layer of yellow paint on this desk was so thick. Then under that there was a lighter wood color. Then under that a white grayish kind of color. And then under that was wood finish before you even get to the original wood. So this took a while for me to get down with that sanding. Now here's where I start to sand the inside of the cubbies. It was a little tricky. I used some sanding blocks, some of which I wrapped in a coarser grit sandpaper to get into that yellow paint because it was just as thick in those cubbies as it was on top of the desk. The detail on the sides and legs of the desk is hard to sand without damaging the wood. I should have purchased a sponge sander attachment to go over the detail. However, I end up leaving most of the paint in there and spray painting it black. You can see here that you can't do too much with the sanding tool on the front of the legs. That's where this sponge attachment would have came in handy, I think. I've never used one though, so I don't know, but I'm guessing. After sanding the drawers as well, I start the spray painting process with this black enamel spray paint. It's something I had on hand and I thought it might help the durability of the drawers. Now here you see I went ahead and spray painted the desk black, but taped off the two flat surfaces because I wanted to stain them to really get that wood grain showing through. But here you can see that wood pattern is coming through some of the spray paint. So I got this brilliant idea and thought, why don't I just spray paint the raw wood? Oh man. I thought this was going to be so much simpler than staining it with the oil-based stain that I purchased. I was wrong. And you know what? It didn't look terrible. I was just being very picky, going for perfection while not really having a clear idea of what I was doing in the first place, winging it. So I go in with the satin black, just another spray paint I had on hand, and I thought it might help achieve a softer look. Yeah, I don't know. was doing. So here I go sanding again. This was the most consuming thing about this project. After sanding the spray paint off, I really got down to that bare wood. From there, I should have applied a top coat, but I didn't, which led to more problems. When I apply the first coat of stain, you can see on the lower surface that the stain is smearing. It's not wanting to soak into anything because of how much I sanded down the wood. So from this point, I really should have added a top coat to help protect that wood a little more. Um, it just gets worse from here. Now, this was my attempt at trying to signal how long I was going to let the stain sit. It was probably 5 or 10 minutes because that's what the instructions are. Right there, you see it? That's where it's starting to smear. After sanding it a third time, the stain does not want to come off of the wood. I went out and bought some mineral spirits to help lift some of it out. It did help. You can't really see it on camera, but it lifted a pretty good amount out of the wood. Now I am wiping the second coat of stain off. The instructions said to wait about 5 to 10 minutes. For this one, I ended up waiting about an hour and got pretty good results. I was reading online that if you leave your product in humid spaces, like I did in the garage during summer in Michigan, it can affect the product. So I think that also may have had something to do with it not working as well as I wanted it to. Now here that my drawers are dry, I am taping off the edges so I can begin adding that red surface. This is just a latex paint I got from Lowe's. I believe it was called Red Banner. I ended up doing quite a few coats of this red to achieve the look I wanted. I did not sand over the spray paint, so that probably didn't help the way it was adhering. I purchased this roller set from the Dollar Tree. It helped achieve a much smoother look than the little sponge brush that I was using. These cubbies were tricky to paint. I spent hours going back and forth with black and red paint to get the lines as even as I could. I had to cover a lot of smudges and a lot of mistakes. I used the original hardware for the two small drawers at the top of the desk. I painted them black and added a small detail to the center with red paint. Here is the new vanity after the paint is dry and a top coat has been applied. I love the way it came out. I love the way you can see the wood coming through the black stain, that pop of red when you open the drawer. I think it is beautiful, but I am not done yet. So now using my Cricut machine, I made some fun decals using a similar red color vinyl, two little baddies, and of course, some spider webs for the sides. In this shot, you can see I painted that metal trim black and reattached it to the desk. I did revamp a few more pieces for this project. The mirror was a purchase from a thrift store, and the green coffin is from Sourpuss. Both of them were spray painted black. And here it is, my DIY Goth vanity. This was such a fun project, and I love how it turned out, even with all the mistakes I made. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I really appreciate the feedback. Your support is greatly appreciated, and don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel so I can get enough subscribers to create my own custom URL. And remember, until next time, stay spooky.